You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Get the cannabis. Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville. Hadouken!
I think we're all ready to go. They had to insert 3 quarters before we get started.
Yeah, and put the Konami code.
Welcome to Toker Talk Radio. Our phone lines are open at 971-533-7111, and I have to punish myself. Bad host.
That's a very bad host.
Bad host. I've been forgetting my promo stuff all week.
It's a very bad risk.
My mind's been otherwise occupied. Yeah. But a couple things, important things to promote. Number one, this Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central Time, we have a live, exclusive album premiere listening party with The Individuals out of Chicago, Illinois.
What?
Yes.
Oh, these would be the individuals that you got a pizza from.
That's right. My pizza individuals. That's right. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to be joining us by Skype or Google or phone. We got to figure out which way, but they'll be joining us live. And we're going to play all 18 tracks, 71 minutes worth of music off of CDXX, which of course is the Roman numeral for 420. CDXX marijuana music, and you've heard the one track, 420 Situations. It's actually the 18th track. That's the one that features my voice and Jack Harrer and Keith Stroup and a bunch of, Casper Leach, bunch of people's voices on it, Ed Rosenthal. So yeah, you want to hear the whole album. It'll be on this Saturday, 6 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Central, live with the individuals. They'll be talking in between tracks, what inspired this track or that track, the stories from the streets, what's going on in their world. It's going to be a good time this Saturday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central time. I'm really looking forward to it. We'll have it recorded, and I will probably replay it. I'm not exactly sure when. I haven't decided what. Making schedules has not been on my priority list, but I will definitely figure out when we'll replay it. Probably the following Saturday for sure, but maybe in the late night lineup as well, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Other thing to remember is tonight is Groovin' Thursday, so that means a new episode of Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink. That's right. Yeah. The Funky Roller Rink is open, and it's all skate in the groovy direction. Mm-hmm. Check out the Funky Roller Rink tonight at 8 o'clock Pacific time, 11 o'clock Eastern. Or check the replay tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific time, right here on 420 Radio. Speaking of replays, tonight we got a replay of the Red Eyes Reggae Flashback from last night.
Yep, it was another great show. All vinyl.
And no, we actually did vinyl show and tell.
Yeah, vinyl show and tell. Yeah, for some of you who, are too young to remember these things or have never been to a club, that it shows you what we used to have to deal with.
It's very cool. I liked them. I like the show and tell time. So on today's stories, we had a couple of stories to go over, and our lines are open at 971-533-7111. A couple things I want to dig more into is this whole Box Canyon theory. This is something we've been, since I worked at Normal, starting in about 2009, we talked about how medical marijuana as a political strategy. And and remember, when we have these policy discussions, you have to kind of divorce yourself a little bit from the humanity of it, the reality of it, right? Because like at the humanity reality level, you have to support any medical marijuana law, even if it's just a medical marijuana law just for Kathy Jordan, so only she can use medical marijuana only in her house. How can you say no? I mean, you have to say, well, yeah, she's suffering. Of course, I have to let her. Sucks that nobody else gets it. But how could you say no to that, right? Well, that's actually part of the of the Box Canyon theory, and let me come back to that in a second. The first part of the Box Canyon is this idea that if you fight only for medical marijuana, and that means to fight within the frame of medical marijuana, you're only going to end up with cannabinoid pharmaceuticals. And there's a lot of political realities behind that make it kind of an inevitable destination if that's the path you choose to fight. So I have a presentation on this, as a matter of fact, and I wrote extensively on this. I delivered my first presentation on it at the Normal National Conference 2010 here in Portland. And then in 2012, High Times Magazine invited me out to the High Times Cup, Medical Cannabis Cup in Denver, where I did an updated presentation in 2012. If you'd like a copy of that updated presentation from 2012, it's now available in the 420 Radio Shop or the 420 Radio Store. We have a store.
A store?
Yes, we have a store that is working.
What?
Yes, sir. I love it.
Amazing.
I've got the stickers up for sale at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to put I've got the downloadable PowerPoint presentation up as well.
Which is cool.
24 slides, it's automated, runs on its own kind of thing. So you can present it. You can have it in the background at an event. You can present it live yourself.
So that download thing, we're going to be using that a lot to bring you guys exclusive content that you can, just buy on the side and have to display, like he said, at some kind of, at events or just for your own personal entertainment.
And we will have coupon codes that will be available for our VIPs to get you all sorts of special discounts too.
There you go.
So when we come back, we'll talk more about Box Canyon. Plus, I think we're getting some report on our telegraph machine back there. The 1920s, the flux capacitor. Stick around.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisements because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Marsha Ball. The song is Down in the Neighborhood. You get this and other great tunes available at our 420 Radio Daily Toker Tunes pages at the new 420radio.org. Hey, and the layout is so easy. All of our shows are available at 420radio.org/shows. And then you just need to know the 3-letter abbreviation. So for Russ Belville Show, for example, it's RBS. 420radio.org/shows/RBS. And there you are at Russ Belville Show. We got TTR for Toker Talk Radio, TLL for the Lieber Lounge, ADV for a different view, and so on. All these little 3-letter abbreviations, except Herb Thrasher, which is UTFH, Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. And the podcast feed for each of those, just put /feed on the end of it, and you got the podcast feed. How handy is that?
If there's a feed.
If there's a feed.
No feed for my show.
All right, let's check out what's going on here from our special flux capacitor link.
Oh, we got something coming across the...
Stupid Prohibition Stories. As a public service, the Russ Belville Show reminds you that smoking marijuana does not make one stupid. However, some stupid people do smoke marijuana, and Prohibition is always waiting for another victim. Learn your lesson from today's Stupid Prohibition Stories.
With your Stupid Prohibition Stories, I'm old-timey 1920s radio reporter Freddie Farrock. Man accused of illegally stuffing animals and growing marijuana. From IndianasNewsCenter.com. Indiana conservation officers served a search warrant on a Kendallville man accused of performing as a taxidermist without a state license. The search warrant was served. Conservation officers received information that Maxon was performing taxidermy work without a state license. During their search, they discovered an indoor marijuana grow operation containing approximately 30 marijuana plants, a large amount of processed marijuana, numerous drug paraphernalia items, methamphetamine, and multiple illegally possessed fish and animals for taxidermy purposes. With their Stupid Prohibition Stories, I'm Freddie Farrock.
Well, he loves animals.
I guess so. I do believe this is the first time in my 8-year history of marijuana activism I've ever heard of a pot grower going down for illegal possession of fish. Fishy, 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 fish. Where did the fish did go?
Well, wherever I did go. Right.
Illegal taxidermy. First of all,
this has become too silly. That's enough.
I know.
Wait, I don't know if we need to cover anymore.
I know. I have to. I cannot leave this one alone. I got to talk a little bit about the illegal tax. I got to poke this a little. All right. So So the guy gets busted because...
I mean, how much is a taxidermy license? You know, probably just the price of a couple of jobs of taxidermy.
But here's what gets me on this. The conservation officers received information that he was performing work without a state license, so somebody tipped them.
Yeah.
Who's tipping people as to illegal taxidermy? How does this... Where is this... I don't know how this crime gets reported.
Maybe the guy was out fishing or something. And he saw someone catch a fish and was like, "Hey, I could stuff that for you."
What happened? Like, officers, I need to report something. Yes, I was looking to have my beaver stuffed, and and I went to find this man who said he would stuff my beaver, and it turns out that he doesn't have a proper state license. I feel my beaver was illegally stuffed. I want to report this man.
He didn't have credentials. There was no diploma on the wall from taxidermy school.
And what's the... okay, I understand. All right, I guess we need to have state standards for taxidermy for, stuffing critters, because you don't want like, critter guts still in the critter rotting somewhere in someone's house and being a health hazard, I guess. I'm sorry, this is way out of my league. I can't even... I can't go on. It's too much for me. Illegal possession of fish.
Makes my head hurt.
All right. So let me come back to the Box Canyon for a second. So this The Box Canyon idea is basically that if you keep fighting for medical marijuana, you're going to end up with cannabinoid pharmaceuticals because you're fighting the fight in the wrong frame. You're fighting the fight based on the why people are using it. And if you fight based on why people use it, then you by definition have to have something outside of you to determine the why. Because if I get to determine the why, if I'm just going to say, well, I'm sick, I'm going to use marijuana, well, that's not going to fly because everybody's going to say they're sick. I mean, that's why we don't have religious use of marijuana. That's why they don't allow the First Amendment use of marijuana, because they'll say, well, suddenly everybody will be a Rasta or whatever. They'll make their own religion up or whatever. We'll come back to that. I got a call coming in, 503.
Bacon Dan.
Bacon Dan on the line.
That would be me.
Oh, what's up, Dan?
Not too much. I just wanted to throw a quick add-on to your beaver story there.
Oh, good. We always like adding on to our beavers.
We're beaver believers.
That's
here.
right.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so I remember hearing a story one time. I lived down south at one point. It was one of the worst things I ever did. But there was a guy who had hit a beaver with his car. And beavers are pretty big animals. People don't realize just how big they are.
Mm.
And so he was like, okay, well, I'm going to take it home and, have it taxidermed. And so he went to go pick it up, and he didn't kill it. He only stunned it, and it bit his nipple off.
Oh, my God.
Nice beaver.
Thank you. I just had it stuffed.
Let me help you with that.
I'll bet you did. All right. So is there a moral to this story?
Don't touch strange beaver.
There we go. Don't touch strange beaver. I think you got it.
That's kind of hard here in Portland.
Oh, it is very true.
Yeah, I guess it depends on where you go to school.
Duck. It's a beaver. Oh, sorry.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for giving us a call. And are you going to stop in sometime soon?
Yeah, I'll be in tomorrow.
Fantastic. We'll see you then.
Fantastic.
All right. Bacon Dan on the line there, our Electric Tuesday editor, who brought us the most excellent Blue Man Group stuff on Tuesday. Oh, by the way, that's the other thing. On the 420 radio now, the new site, we have a feed for the 420 news that includes the daily Toker tunes. So you can pick those up if there's an MP3 with it, right? If it's a podcast thing. But there's also show pages for it. And now they're broken down by day. So if you go up to the main menu and you pick news and daily Toker tunes, you can pick Roots Monday and see just the Monday tunes and be able to, they're all in the YouTube windows usually. Sometimes we have SoundCloud downloads or something like that. So check that out. And they're all linkable. 420radio.org/shows/420/MON for Monday, TUE for Tuesday, and so forth. So,
and that's the Toker tunes.
Yeah, we're trying to get a little bit better taxonomy going. All right. So,
not taxidermy.
Not taxidermy, because we don't have a state license for that.
No, we're not qualified.
Yeah, we can't do that. No. So, so part of this Box Canyon theory is that if you keep fighting just for medical marijuana and you're fighting on the frame of why I use it, I should be allowed to use it because of this particular reason. And in this case, I'm sick. And that is only going to lead you to one, them trying to determine who's sick enough. And as we've seen from the progression of medical marijuana laws, the hoop gets higher and higher. The hurdle becomes higher and higher that you have to clear. When you started in California, it was for any illness for which a doctor believes marijuana can provide relief. Very low bar to clear, right? Oregon and Washington and Alaska followed up on that and said, oh, no. That means anybody could have it. We're going to have a list of very specifically sick people. Chronic pain, nausea, cachexia, HIV, AIDS, spasms, seizures, Alzheimer's agitation, glaucoma, we'll have a very specific list. And now, as it moves east, it gets more and more specific, and more conditions start falling off that list, to the point where now in Illinois, the bill that Representative Lou Lang is saying should be the model for the nation, the bill doesn't cover chronic pain.
Yeah.
Chronic pain, the condition for which we probably have more peer-reviewed medical literature and studies and science than any other condition that marijuana alleviates aside from nausea. Especially when we're talking about neuropathic pain. We're talking about nerve pain that opioid painkillers usually don't touch. Things like nerve pain, things like the phantom limb pain that vets get sometimes from an amputation. And you're going to leave that out. And these things like, we can't have felons getting medical marijuana cards. They have to suffer because they committed a crime at some point, and that crime might have been growing the marijuana that they already knew was something that would help their condition.
And
that's your box candy.
This is supposed to be the model?
That's the model, yeah.
It's like, come on.
Oh, boy.
Where's
Sometimes the only way you
passion
can
in your
cope with
medicine?
it is smoking hash.
Well, good thing I know how to make that, and it's not quite a felony here.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back. Stick around.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm a reefer smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's Danny Danko from High Times Magazine, and I'm here with Mr. Kyle Cushman, and we're talking about integrated pest management. Now Kyle, I see you're using these yellow sticky traps. What's the purpose of those?
It is just a good part of routine IPM, integrated pest management, along with neem oil, regular spraying of neem oil every second or third day. And it's just good to keep down, to prevent an infestation before it happens. Okay. So it's kind of like that canary in the coal mine thing, where it'll let you know ahead of time by seeing how many bugs there if you need to employ something stronger, if you're going to need to use biological controls or some chemical insecticides.
Wow, cool. And also I'd like people to know the reason these sticky traps are yellow is that the bugs are attracted to that color. It's the color of a dying leaf, which makes a welcome home for them. So always remove any yellowing leaves so as not to create a home for pests.
Yes. Yellow or mottled leaves. Go away.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Kyle. And this has been a lesson in integrated pest management.
Music from Sacred Reich, their cover of the Sabbath classic Sweet Leaf. Welcome back. Toker Talk Radio. Just, I had to run upstairs because Cousin Kenny's doing some work upstairs. You know, Cousin Kenny is a huge, huge NASCAR fan. He already knew the news, but this is the first I'd heard that former NASCAR racer Dick Trickle, yes, that's his name, Dick Trickle. In fact, the reason I think so highly of Dick Trickle, first time you hear me say that, but the reason I think so highly of Dick Trickle is because when it comes to NASCAR, I don't know nothing. So whenever there was a race, I would just ask Kenny, who's got the silliest name?
And
I will
root for
support
them.
whichever racer's got the silliest name. And for years, that was Dick Trickle.
Oh.
So I was always watching Dick Trickle race, right?
It's been beaten by somebody?
Well, he retired. He left NASCAR.
Oh.
And now I root for Greg Biffle.
Biffle.
Biffle, which the advantage of Biffle is he's from Vancouver, Washington. So that's kind of cool, kind of a local boy. But anyway, the story of the Dick Trickle news is that he killed himself, committed suicide, shot himself in the head. And the way Kenny tells me the story is that he actually he went to the cemetery, called police, said, "Hello, police, I'm at the cemetery. There's going to be a dead body. It's going to be mine." Hung up and shot himself in the head. Whoa!
Interesting.
So there you go. That's your NASCAR Dick Trickle news. I'm sure we'll talk about it on Herb Thrasher tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Herb Thrasher Flower Hour, 8 o'clock p.m. We play metal and rock. We got 2 hours of just hanging out on a Friday night and smoking weed and having a good time. So check that out every Friday night here at 8 p.m. We also talk sports at 9 p.m. And I'm sure we'll talk about Dick Trickle, the late Dick Trickle. All right, so we were talking a little bit about Box Canyon theory, and I got to the point of, if you fight for marijuana to be medical, then you're fighting for it in the frame of why. You're fighting not that people have an innate right to use marijuana, but that they should be excused for using it if they match a certain condition. Now, this is not to castigate or, be upset about the medical marijuana strategy, because obviously it's worked. Obviously, the medical marijuana strategy is what's led to now 19 states relaxing their laws on marijuana. It's led to Washington and Colorado having legalization. And, of course, it's helped millions of people not be arrested for treating themselves with cannabis. So it's not to deny the medical marijuana is a good thing, politically or realistically, and not to deny that it was necessary to fight on the medical frame. Up until 1996, the marijuana movement was at a complete logjam. Hadn't had any success since 1979, or 78, I think, was Nebraska the last state to decrim. So you went from 78 to 96, almost an 18-year span, without any serious statewide movement. So I understand why it all went to medical and everything. Part of the Box Canyon, though, is to explain that medical marijuana is just a step. It can't be the end. It can't be the sole focus. And part of this is observing what the trends have been. And we've already, cataloged some of these. In the 1990s, when medical marijuana gets passed in those first few states, other than California, and whenever we talk medical marijuana, it's important to make sure to understand that there is California and there's everywhere else. Yeah, there's everywhere else. Okay. So California comes out and they've got, pretty much a doctor can write recommendations for as many plants as you want. Now, they tightened that a bit with SB 420. They made kind of a floor, like if it's below 6 and 12, then it's for sure it's medical. You're certainly covered. Mm-hmm. If it's above that, well, your doctor must have, given you a recommendation, right? But aside from California, when you look at the trend of the medical marijuana states, every other state after that passed laws with like 3 plants. 2 plants, 1 plant, 3 ounces, 2 ounces, just very
bare
limited.
minimum,
Yeah, bare minimums, right? And people say, well, don't you have 24 plants in Oregon? Yeah, we do, but that didn't come around until 2005 or 2007.
It's like we had our program almost 10 years before we got that, change. So,
and that fits the trend as well, because when you look at those states, those late 90s, early 2000 states, the trend is a few plants, tiny few plants, and a tiny amount of medicine that you can have, right? Once you hit about 2005, 2006, the trend you see starting with New Mexico is more plants. New Mexico gave them 4 and 12, I think, 12 seedlings for mature. And the next few states were given like 6 plants and more limits. And that's also in that late 2000s period when both Washington and Oregon raised their limits. Mm-hmm. Oregon went up to 24 plants. Washington finally decided what a 60-day supply was.
Yeah.
And they decided it was 24 plants. Or 15 plants, 15 plants, 24 ounces. But actually, when Washington's councils, when they had their task forces originally looking at it, they found that 70 ounces was a 60-day supply. And the governor freaked. So they cut it in half and said 35 ounces.
Yeah, they're like, well, we can't have that.
And law enforcement freaks, so they cut it from 35 down to 24 just to match Oregon, right? So really, when neutral observers looked at it and analyzed it scientifically, they found the limit should be much higher than what got decided on, right?
Yeah, it's like when they were comparing the 6-packs of beer to 8s. That was hilarious.
So you got the late 90s, early 2000s medical marijuana states, a few plants, a little bit of medicine. The late 2000 states, and including Oregon and Washington, changing their limits, you see a greater acceptance of greater limits as patients started to successfully make these arguments about, look, if you allow us to have a greater amount, then number one, we can use it in non-smokable ways. We can cook with it. We can make tinctures because you need more marijuana to be able to pull that off. And two, for a lot of these patients, you're allowing them to have a reasonable supply for a reasonable amount of time, so they're not constantly having to go back to a black market to make sure they can have enough plants they can maintain their own supply and never have to, run out of supply in an emergency situation or under the black market. So that was successful through the 2000s. Now in the 2010s, what we see is no home grow. Not one state or locality that has passed, jurisdiction, I should say, District of Columbia, not one of the 7 that have passed medical marijuana in the 2010s allow for home grow. Arizona will allow it if you're 25 miles farther away from a dispensary, right? If you're more than 25 miles away, then you can grow your own. So they do have some home grow. And Massachusetts will allow hardship exemptions. If you can prove that you live too far away, it's going to cost you too much money, then you can grow your own. But pretty much, it's no home grow in these latest states. And what the Box Canyon theory is to say, as medical marijuana progresses, it can't become more open. It has to become more restrictive. Because the direction of more open is toward legalization, and that's a different frame. That's a different argument. That's people using marijuana because they decide they want to, not because a doctor decides they should. So medical marijuana can't lead that direction. It has to lead toward more restrictions. It has to lead to the Representative Lou Lang bill, where they restrict it down to just like cancer, HIV, multiple sclerosis, things that, we can show a definitive disability and a severe amount of all this kind of stuff. Take away anything that could possibly be faked, like chronic pain, and restrict it to 2.5 ounces, make it a 4-year pilot program, have 60 dispensaries in the state, 25 growers in the state, have it all tightly controlled in a tightly regulated market, keep track of it, have cameras everywhere, databases of who's getting how much weed at what time, have it more strictly regulated than alcohol for sure. That's the direction medical marijuana has to go. And the danger that this presents to us is that what happens is we built our argument on the why. We built the medical marijuana argument on the why. And the why is medical necessity. Look at these people. For God's sake, how could you let them suffer? Look at this person when they use it for medical purposes, how much they benefit. How great it is for them, what a wonderful medicine, how it helps them, how it changes their condition. The why is suffering. If they're suffering and medical marijuana relieves the suffering, that's a legitimate enough reason not to throw them in a cage for their use of pot. And the problem with the why argument is technology and perception. Now, on the perception side of it, it's what we've already talked about. Every medical marijuana bill gets thrown into the legislature with its proponent saying, this isn't going to be like California. Oh, this isn't going to be like California and Colorado. This is going to be tightly restricted to make sure none of the bad people get marijuana. That's the direction every medical marijuana debate has gone since, about 2010.
It just sounds like more prejudice to me.
It absolutely is. So that's the perception side of it. But the other side of it is the technology side. And that is the pharmaceutical industry's ability in research and development to patent and design cannabinoid pharmaceuticals that will be every bit or even more effective than raw plant cannabis. They haven't quite got it yet. That was their first salvo was Marinol, right? Let's make dronabinol, let's make nabilone, let's make Sisamet, we'll make all these, synthetic cannabinoids. We'll, try to make them so they don't get you high, whatever, right? They tried with those, but they're just not cutting it, right? Because they're a pill. You got to swallow it. Hey, you with chemotherapy-induced vomiting, swallow this pill and keep it down for 40 minutes. That's not effective, right? So far, they have not been able to beat the effectiveness and the immediate titration of dose that medical cannabis provides. When you vaporize cannabis, okay, I feel it, and then you're done, right? And they also haven't been able to match the non-toxic ability and the low amount of side effects. The side effects from a Marinol pill, trust me, are not fun. Marinol was the worst high I've ever had. And I've done some drugs. Marinol was bad. I wouldn't recommend that shit for anyone. So what's happening now is these pharmaceutical companies are starting to get around that. It's like, all right, they want self-titration. All right, well, we'll provide a under-the-tongue mucosal, mucosal membrane spray that'll absorb very quickly. We'll create an inhaler so that it's like a like one of these little things. I got a little inhaler right here. We'll create an inhaler that makes it really easy to get that and have that immediate feedback that is so good for medical cannabis. And what's nice about the inhaler is we can titrate the dose. We can make sure that this is an exact amount, and we can make sure that what they're inhaling is exactly this much THC and that much CBD and this terpene and that flavonoid and blah, blah, blah. They can get it down so accurately that within 5 years, people, we are going to see medical cannabis products that outperform natural cannabis. And guess what? Then your why argument is shot. Well, I need marijuana to help my condition. Why? Try this inhaler. It works better than marijuana. Now you've got no why argument. And all these state programs, mark my words, you're going to start to see when these pharmaceuticals get to the point where, number one, they're as effective as cannabis, and number two, paid for by the insurance industry, you're going to see these state programs start to say, oh, well, we need to pass a bill here to take this home grow away. We need to pass a bill here to make sure that medical cannabis is actually this new inhaler from Pfizer or Merck or whoever is going to be making it. We got to make sure that medical really is medical. And we won't have a leg to stand on for keeping plants. Now, what do we do about it? Talk about that when we come back. Stick around.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
Bong, bong, bong. Big Daddy thinks. Oh yeah.
span. And shout out to our good friend Calico, a.k.a. Wiz Calico. Had a post on his Facebook page about heading down. I think he's going back to Cali?
Yep, heading back to Cali so we can hang with
the boys in Revolution and the boys in the green and the boys in the hood. And Calico knows a lot of boys.
There's a big concert going on down there, so he's going to have a lot of fun.
I'm sure he'll have a lot of fun. All right, so we're talking about Box Canyon. I've kind of outlined, what I see as the trend is that from now on, medical marijuana is going to be no home grow. It's going to be, 2 ounces, 2.5 ounces, dispensary only, very highly tracked, big databases to keep your name in, very restrictive conditions, no more pot doctors. It'll be, it'll have to be your doctor, your, legitimate, bona fide, blah, blah, blah doctor that does the recommendation. Here's another thing in that Illinois bill that's a little maddening, right? In most medical marijuana states, there's a registry, okay? In some, it's voluntary. Most, it's mandatory. Washington State doesn't have one. California doesn't have one, as far as I know. I mean, California's got them at the county level, I think. But Washington State doesn't have one. Oregon does. Most of the other states have a registry. But when it comes to getting on this registry, the state's involvement in it is really just a proofreader. Okay? So, like, when I go to get my medical marijuana card, assuming I had one, if I were to go get my medical marijuana card, I would go to my doctor and have to pull up medical records from the past 3 years where I can show 3 visits, where 2 of them weren't in the same year, where I can show that it was documented that I had one of the qualifying conditions, right? So let's say that the surgery in my feet went bad and I've got chronic foot pain and I was using cannabis to deal with it. I'd have to go to my doctor and I'd have to get the medical records and show that he wrote down in the chart notes somewhere, patient suffers from chronic pain in the feet, okay? Or whatever it might be. This applies if you were a paraplegic in a wheelchair. You could be a paraplegic in a wheelchair with Lou Gehrig's disease with 2 months to live, and you could wheel yourself into the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program office. I mean, not anymore because they don't have a customer service window anymore because, gosh, they doubled the fees. They couldn't afford that. But assuming they had an office, you could wheel yourself into the office in your wheelchair with your little breath control, and you would be denied a medical marijuana card unless you could show notes from your doctor over the past 3 years that showed that you're actually a paraplegic in a wheelchair with Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, because, you could just be some actor off the street.
Yeah, you could be faking it.
Yeah, with all your medical equipment and stuff. And
yeah, you'd be Dr. Stephen Hawking typing away there, I would like my card. You're not going to get it. Right?
They're like, can we see some papers?
Exactly. So I go get my papers. I go get my medical paperwork. I go to my own doctor. Let's say I go to my own doctor. Hey, doc, I've been coming to you for 3 years here with this chronic foot pain. We're in a state where it's legal. Would you just sign this recommendation paper for the state that I can get on their medical marijuana program? And that doctor's going to say, hell no. Because most doctors work for clinics, hospitals, or have insurance programs that in one way or another tie to the federal government or to owners that don't like it anyway, regardless of the federal government, that will get them fired or rebuked or too much attention if they sign for medical marijuana. So most doctors won't. And that's why when you see this scary stat that they'll throw up, they do this a lot in Oregon, these 10 doctors did most of the recommendations in the state. Yeah, that's like saying the one abortion doctor in Wichita, Kansas did most of the abortions in the state. Because nobody else will do it, right? Most doctors who even want to recommend medical marijuana, who believe in it, who say, yeah, Russ, I have seen your chronic foot pain, man. I'd write for you in a second if I didn't have this insurance contract that says I couldn't. Or if I didn't work for Kaiser or whatever, Aetna or whoever that doesn't allow it. Or if the research hospital I'm at didn't get federal grants that they'd lose because of me writing for recommendations for marijuana. So yeah, no wonder there's a few doctors that are specialists that what happens is I gather all my records from my actual doctor and I take those records to the medical marijuana clinic doctor who then reviews them to see, yes, they wrote down that he's a paraplegic in a wheelchair, whatever, right? And then that doctor signs a piece of paper, a paperwork, that says, I have reviewed this patient, I've checked out their records, they're okay for medical marijuana, and then you take that form into the state and pay them $200, and then you get your medical marijuana card, right? So after going to your own doctor 3 times at least in 3 years, and however much that costs, and going to the medical marijuana doctor, however much that costs, then you also got to pay the state $200. You could be up $500 to $1,000 or more just to get your card the very first time. And then you got to go through all that again the next year if you want to renew. I'm still a paraplegic in a wheelchair. Nope, sorry, need to see some paperwork. Okay, so that's the medical marijuana that already exists, that's, so abused here in the West, right? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not talking about California. And I'm not even talking about Washington State, because naturopaths can write in Washington State now. So we're talking Oregon, we're talking, New Mexico, Alaska, Hawaii, Maine, Vermont. Most of the medical marijuana states run this way, right? So the role of the state in this is when they get that piece of paper from the doctor who signed it, the state really just makes sure that everything's filled out properly. The state isn't really rejecting people based on the medical condition, and very few applications ever get rejected, because by the time it's come from your original doctor and gone through a second doctor who works at a clinic where the people are all very, very, very trained to make sure that the people qualify, because there's no money in getting people's applications rejected. By the time it gets to the state, all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. Everything's fine at that point. Usually, if there's a rare rejection, it's because, oh, wait, somebody forgot to fill in this line here, or somebody forgot to sign this part here, right? Not in Illinois. This Representative Lou Lang Box Canyon bill, after the doctor certifies that you are okay for medical marijuana, and again, no chronic pain in Illinois, certifying on cancer, HIV, AIDS, real serious stuff. After the doctor's certified, it goes to the State Department of Health, who then reviews your medical records and makes their own second opinion determination to back your doctor up, if they choose to back your doctor up. That's the direction medical marijuana is going. Because the why argument keeps the most important part of the debate, at least from the prohibitionist perspective, alive. And that is that you need a reason to smoke pot. So long as we maintain the why we're smoking pot as the crux of our argument, we divide ourselves into 2 camps. Those for whom it's okay and those for whom it's not okay. And given that there is a group for whom it's not okay, the people for whom it is okay don't have a right, they have a privilege. They have an exception to criminal prosecution. The plant itself remains criminal. The reason for using it becomes your exception. But so long as the plant is criminal, we must do everything we can to make sure those in that other group, the healthy people, are kept out of the exception group. We can't punish people for that bad, icky plant if there are too many loopholes that allow them to avoid punishment. It's right there in Lou Lang's quote in that St. Louis paper, where he is saying this does a great job at making sure people don't get medical marijuana for recreational purposes. By God, the sky would fall if people smoked pot and we couldn't punish them. That's what this maintains. And at the heart of a medical marijuana argument is the flip side. It's that whole, we're patients, not criminals. All right, I'm not a patient, therefore, I guess I'm a criminal, right? Now, what do we do about it? Well, at one level, it's kind of like asking halfway through the roller coaster, how do we stop this thing? Now that the die has been cast for medical marijuana, it's difficult not to open with that. I mean, if I'm a reformer in Kentucky, what am I going to open with? Legalization of marijuana, legalize it for everyone? Yes, let's start opening with legalization for everyone. And let's tie medical into it, and let's tie in the people's cultivated fear that it's being abused. One of the things I've been counseling some of the reformers here in Oregon, we've got this House bill that would legalize marijuana. And one of the things I've said in this House bill is that we ought to use this feeling that medical marijuana is being abused, use that as leverage in this House bill. Point out that no matter how we make a medical bill, it will always be abused. No matter what you do, it will be abused. And the tighter you try to make it, you don't hurt the abusers, you hurt the people who really need the medical marijuana, like the people with chronic pain in Illinois right now. They're not going to get any medical marijuana. So the tighter you make it, the worse it hurts the actual sick people that the medical marijuana bill was intended to help in the first place, and does nothing to stop the healthy people from smoking pot. They will continue to get it and smoke it, and some of them will find a way to get themselves in the medical program no matter what you do. So from now on, let's fight for legalization as a medical marijuana issue by saying, look, by legalizing marijuana for all people, we guarantee no sick person will ever do without. No sick person will ever have trouble with access. And then for those healthy people that are using marijuana, we guarantee that we won't be spending any more money trying to find them and search them and arrest them and lock them up and pay for their room and board and turn them into criminals.
Terrify them and their families.
Fight for legalization as a medical marijuana issue in addition to a fiscal sanity issue. Because that's what, our side with legalization has been fighting it as, well, we'll save all this money on prosecutions, we'll free up our courts, and we'll get all this tax revenue. And one of the dangers of the tax revenue thing, it's already being attacked by Mark Kleiman in Washington State. One of the dangers is, if the money doesn't materialize, the next state can't use that as their argument to try to win. Again, the making tax money out of it is another why argument. We need to get right down to the fact that we deserve marijuana rights. We deserve the same equal rights as a beer drinker. There's no reason why marijuana should be any more limited than beer. In fact, it should be less limited than beer. But for now, I'll take as limited as beer, right? Let's get it to that spot and then see where we can go from there. It seems clear to me that in our society, we have accepted that adult humans have the right to get fucked up.
Yeah. Once you turn 18, basically, you can do what you want to your body. You're an adult here in America.
And that's why I shy away from any arguments about marijuana. Well, marijuana is safer than alcohol. It's less harmful. Well, it's true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. But let's say it was more harmful than alcohol. Would it be reason to ban it?
Yeah, is it any less, reason to, or any more reason to prosecute it,
How harmful or harmless it is irrelevant to me when the most harmful drugs are legal, alcohol and tobacco.
Yeah.
So any argument that hinges on, well, marijuana is so much safer, well, it is, sure, but it doesn't need to be. Yeah. It doesn't need to be. I have the right to get fucked up. I have the right to go buy a bottle of Crown Royal and a carton of Marlboros, chain smoke, and chug alcohol till midnight. I have that right, even though it's really bad for me.
Yeah.
And could be bad for others.
Yeah.
If in my drunken state I decide to wander out here on 82nd and get into traffic or something.
Well, plus they've proved that, cigarette secondhand smoke is still deadly and causes cancer. But, marijuana, secondhand smoke, doesn't do nothing,
All right, we're going to have to take a short little break, and then we'll come back and close up the show. But, can wrap a few more things up. So I can give you a little catch of fire, and then we'll come right back.
Counsel at Normal, and I'm the old guy who founded Normal back in 1970. I also recently published a book by High Times Press entitled It's Normal to Smoke Pot. I look forward to joining you at the Texas Regional Seminar coming up on June 7th through 9th. The seminar theme is Grabbing Prohibition by the Horns. And one thing for certain, we are at the tipping point in this country, and we are well into the process of ending prohibition once and for all. Hope to see you in Fort Worth in early June. Thank you.
You'll see me there, Keith. I'll be there at the Texas Regional Normal Conference, June 7th through 9th. Be attending that. The weekend after, the weekend of May 30th through the 1st, where Red Eyes and I are headed up to Aspen, Colorado, in your first plane trip.
Indeed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I even let him have the window seats.
Yeah.
I'm usually a window seat guy because I got to fall asleep against the side of the airplane. And plus, I'm not the guy that has to get up and go pee on the plane. This is a word to you people out there. Before you get on the plane, go pee.
Yeah.
Okay? Your flight's not much longer than 3 to 5 hours, right? You can't go without peeing for 3 to 5 hours? Really? I guess medically, some people. I know. I'm being facetious. Still, I hate it when I get the aisle seat and the guy in the window seat is the guy that has to pee.
I'll try not to be that guy.
Don't pee. But it's not fair because I have an uncommonly strong and large bladder. You know that study we saw about the marijuana smoking prevents bladder cancer. Mine was developed from years and years of being on the road. My dad was on the road when I was a little kid. And like you'd have a gig in South Dakota one weekend and then be in Kansas the next weekend. So like I grew up with 10-hour car rides as a standard kind of thing, being in a car for 10 hours.
Yep.
Dad had a 1 pee per state rule. We would stop the car once per state to pee, with exceptions. If you're going east-west across Montana, you get 2. North-south across California, you get 2.
Okay.
In Texas, you get 3. That's it. So I learned how to hold it.
Wow. Okay. Another tidbit into the.
I still have. I adhere to this rule to this day. You ask people that go on road trips. With me.
Actually, I've been on a road trip. Yeah. I remember. You know.
I get frustrated when people have to pee more than twice in a state. Like, what? We already peed in this state. What the hell? What's wrong with you people?
No, some of us are like dogs. We want to spread it around.
I guess so. Oh, my goodness. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us here for Toker Talk Radio. Coming up next, you got Red Eyes Reggae Flashback at 5 o'clock, top of the hour. And then coming up at 8 o'clock, we've got the Big Daddy Fink Funky Roller Rink. Got me some good stuff on the rink tonight. Check it out at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow's show, I think we'll have a visit from Steve Bloom, the Celeb Stoner. I think it's time for the Celeb Stoner Report. Yes, it is. And more. Also, might have a move of studio in the next couple of weeks. Don't worry, it's all cool. It might be Herb Thrasher Studios for a couple of weeks.
Oh.
We'll talk about that more tomorrow. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all your support. Visit the new 420radio.org. Register your account today. Use the promo code NEWSITE to get your first month free. Check out our store. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it.